This is Mr. Impact Wrestling himself, Moose, and you're listening to the Irish Whip.
Hookers? Hookers and Coke?
Hookers and Coke, man.
You're the only pro wrestler I know that wants to do this shit in the morning.
Yeti, you're a f***ing moron.
Put it this way, I think Sami Callihan might as well just change his name to Invader
I
Warner.
want to know why. Like, he can dodge any question. Like, I'll tell anyone that. You can tell me but I'm going to ask specific questions.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
WrestlingNewsSource.com. For all the rest of you yahoos who are out there dilly-dillying you little wankers, we're actually receiving real wrestling news.
This is
Brett screwed Brett.
Who are you to doubt El Dandy? Because this guy's a serious professional.
Brett screwed Brett.
Hold two! Arm bar!
Hey, get a nice shot of the brand new Mr. and Mrs. Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
I hate you. I hate you. I hate your hat. I hate your t-shirts. I hate your wristbands. I hate your shoes. I hate your music. I hate the C Nation. I hate everything that you stand for.
Sodas rule.
Yeah, they do.
Mafia JP here. I'm by myself right now running solo, but in just a couple minutes, if y'all just sit back and enjoy. What happened this week is really cool for us. It was kind of a pretty big opportunity as Josh sat in on the NWA conference call with Nick Aldis for Fight TV. Of course, this is for the upcoming pay-per-view Saturday, December 14th. On Fight TV, December 14th, NWA Into The Fire. Nick Aldis, the champ, represented the company on this conference call that, they invited us to be a part of. Thank you to WrestlingNewsSource.com for that hookup. WNS Ben coming through. Shout out to our brothers over there with the WNS podcast. Dan Herron waiting on his new studio, so we're kind of reaping some of the benefits here. And we've confirmed that we will be on their next conference call and all their conference calls from here on out, though. So it was a huge opportunity for us. Josh took it, ran with it, smashed it out of the park. Big ups for that. And listen, guys, I want y'all to have a good week. It's Wednesday night now, so it is wrestling night now in the U.S., at least. I'm about to sit back and relax while I edit this and watch me some AEW and NXT. All right, guys, check it out. Listen up right here, right after brief word from our sponsors here, and then you'll be able to jump right in and you'll be listening to that the press conference. Thank you, guys. I appreciate every one of y'all.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by, and welcome to today's conference. All lines are on mute to prevent background noise. To ask a question during today's call, press star 1 on your telephone. I will now turn the call over to Kim Hurwitz. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Carmen. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, because I know there's at least one other lady besides myself on the call. I really appreciate your time today. We'll have a full hour with our special guest, who I'll introduce shortly. But I also wanted to let you know that we have a few other people from Team Fight today. We have our social media guru, Joel Arkin, also known as Eagle Eye. And we have our Chief Operating Officer, probably no stranger to any of you here, Mr. Mike Weber. And myself, I'm Kim Hurwitz. If I have not met you, I'm sure I will be speaking with you more in the future. I'm only 6 months in here at FIGHT as the Chief Marketing Officer, but long in the world in combat sports and formerly at Karate Combat and DirecTV, et cetera, et cetera. So thank you very much. We very much look forward to getting your questions. But let me also introduce, so he can say hello, our superstar, our guest, and a wrestler extraordinaire, Mr. Nick Aldis with NWA. Nick, say hello, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me.
Great. Mike or Joel, do you want to say something? And
I'll take it real quick here. This is a great event we're talking about today. NWA in the Fire. It's exclusively on Fight this Saturday. Real excited about having Nick joining us here. Nick is in the main event with James Storm, as most of you guys know, and has been instrumental in NWA going to the next level right now. The event has got great a buzz going about it, and we're going to keep that going, and we hope all of you have a chance to tune in this Saturday. From there, I'm going to turn it back to Kim, and let's start doing some questions, Kim.
Great. Well, I'm going to field that right over to Joel. Joel, you're the one who is kind of our voice on social media, and I know you really know this field, and you're personally a huge fan of Mr. Nick Aldis. So why don't you kick us off for a question, and then we'll start taking questions from our media clientele here.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kim. Nick, my question to you is obviously last night on social media, the NWA released the first match with James Storm that you had at the beginning of the year at the pop-up event, the New Year's Clash. My question to you is, how can you make adjustments? You have a 2 out of 3 falls match coming up this weekend. What adjustments do you need to make to ensure that you leave on Saturday at NWA Into the Fire as still the NWA champion with the 10 pounds of gold?
I don't know if it's so much about adjustments as just, preparation. I mean, honestly, the 2 out of 3 falls matches have been good to me. Many people remember that I regained the World Championship over a year ago at NWA 70, our first standalone pay-per-view event in a 2 out of 3 falls match with Cody Rhodes. So for me, the great premise of the 2 out of 3 falls is the fact that it eliminates excuses, and it seems to me that in the lead up to this, James has had a lot of excuses. He's had a lot of conspiracies about how he's been treated, and honestly, I don't really see the validity in any of those arguments. I see a guy who had an opportunity with us after I'd done the groundwork to build this organization, and he had a run with the national title, and he lost that title to Colt Cabana, and now he's making noise about being the world champion, and I think that, for me, 2 out of 3 falls makes it where, look, anyone can get lucky with 1 fall, and James is claiming that, about different issues with that first match. Anyone who saw it saw what happened. It may have ended in a count out, who knows, but it didn't. And if anything, when Billy Corgan decided to make it to where there must be a winner, that's only benefiting the challenger because, as has always been in this business, the burden is on the challenger to beat the champion, not the other way around if he wants to take the title. So when it comes to this 2 out of 3 falls, like, my conditioning is better than ever, and as I've proven over and over again, the best thing about being the world champion is that you have a range of opponents, at the top level, and I've proven myself at every opportunity, every single challenger that's come my way, hostile territory or not. I've proven why the NWA is where it's at, and you're looking at it. It's me, the world champion.
Great answer. I would love to get some questions. Anyone have something in particular they would like to ask concerning this weekend?
You have a question.
How about you, Jim Barcelone? You were from Miami Herald. You were our first person to come online. Do you have a question for Nick?
Thank you very much. Nick, how have you seen the business change? See with Fight TV and what they're doing. Just some of the things that have changed in the business, whether it be in-ring or even out of the ring, and these different ways that wrestlers can be seen and viewed. How do you view the changes over the years?
I think that I think that we've seen one of the healthiest shifts in pro wrestling over the last sort of 3 or 4 years. That's really been, in terms of historically, it's probably one of the healthiest shifts we've had in decades. And what I mean by that is that, the WWE has a huge monopoly, and, with that comes a lot of power over the talent. And, ultimately, to me, this business is built on strong personalities and guys who can get people to part with their money, be it at the box office or on a pay-per-view event. by having outlets like Fight TV, it has created a situation where guys who truly believe in who they are and what they can deliver no longer have to wait until they maybe get an opportunity with the big company to be able to showcase what they can do, and then have like 20 different people tinker with them, to see if they can sell box office, and who really knows who's doing what at that point. With outlets like Fight TV, you get the opportunity for real maverick performers to be able to go out and say, hey, I think people are going to be willing to pay to see Nick Aldis versus Marty Scurll, or Nick Aldis versus James Storm, or this guy versus that guy. And because of the, it's honestly, it's really about the ease of access, and it's a real game changer, because now guys can really bet on themselves, and obviously that's a phrase that's been thrown around quite a bit, and with good reason, with examples like the Young Bucks and Cody, setting that example, and Marty, and then obviously myself. I was the true main event of All In, and that the reason that event was called All In was because it was about guys betting on themselves, and that's really what this is about. And this is just further proof, because the NWA has created a situation where, with a small operating budget, no doubt, and a really just a true belief in what they can deliver and their concept and their brand, we've been able to make a big footprint in the industry in a relatively short period of time without a giant budget.
May I have a follow-up question, please?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I noticed, too, when you come out very well dressed, you're the world champion. What are your thoughts of how you carry yourself when you're on a program, on a show, on a wrestling event? And what are your thoughts of NWA Power and that different type of element that is bringing to us?
Look, Scott Hall said it to me once, and I'm sure he said it in interviews too. In my opinion, it's pro wrestling, right? Emphasis on pro. Okay, if I want people to part with their money to see me perform again, whether it be at the box office or whether it be on a pay-per-view, then I should be willing to go the extra mile, to make the effort, to present myself as somebody that's worth paying for. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. It's not about pretending to be rich or pretending to be a star or pretending to be something I'm not. It's about conducting myself as a professional.
Daddy.
Well, that's a great point. Carmen, there's several people in queue. You can go to Mike Johnson from PW Insider.
All right, and Mike Johnson, your line is open.
Hey, Nick. How are you, sir?
I'm good.
Good. Good to talk to you. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about on this call, talk about you mentioned building the company and the NWA brand with a very small team, very little money. Talk about what the camaraderie is like amongst that team, and what it's like having so many talents who have had chances elsewhere, like yourself, like Trevor Murdoch, like Ken Anderson, Eli Drake, etc., who have all found themselves migrating over to the NWA, and what has it meant for many of, not necessarily you, but many of them to kind of have a second chance to make a first impression with the audience by being showcased in such a different light with the studio atmosphere.
I think that's a great point. And that's really how I see it too. Because I understand that I was fortunate in many ways, because I got signed early, got my foot in the door at TNA, but I wasn't really ready for the spot, and I've said this before many times. It's like there was the most important thing, in my opinion, to have longevity in this business is to have self-awareness. And I think that there was always a part of me that knew deep down that I wasn't necessarily ready to be on TV. But what are you going to do? You're not going to say, well, no, I'm not really ready. I won't take that contract. Thank you. I'll wait. It doesn't work like that, right? Like you have to take what you can get. And I was thrown in at the deep end. And look, Terry Taylor said it to me once. He said, you're getting paid to go to college, which is true. I got paid to learn in the ring from everyone from AJ Styles to Samoa Joe to Doug Williams, and then sit under the learning tree of guys like Kevin Nash and Scott Steiner and Kurt Angle and Sting, and it's like everything I am now is basically a product of that education. It just so happens that whereas, decades previously, by the time you saw a guy like me, a seasoned pro with, in his, reaching his prime with, a lot of good experience behind him, that was the first time you saw him on TV or any sort of capacity. But my education happened on TV, so that's the main difference. So for me, I've had to work very hard to sort of break a lot of the established opinion of long-term fans who only, who had seen me from my TNA run and just kind of written me off and been like, he's whatever. Because I was whatever then, but it's like, again, as far, you have to believe in your perception. You can't sort of shy away from it. And once I understood that and embraced the idea that, look, Magnus is dead, that guy that you knew then is not this guy, and I've spent 2 years and, with David Lagana's help and Billy Corgan's help, have reintroduced the world to Nick Aldis. And now there's a whole new wave of fans, young and old, who are going, Nick Aldis is the real deal, Magnus who? And when it comes to the other guys and the camaraderie, there really is. Like, I've never been in a situation where you truly felt every single person, not just talent, but every single individual involved in NWA Power was really on the same page and really wanted it to succeed. I don't recall a single complaint. I don't remember any gripes about, I don't like what I'm doing, I don't like this, I don't like that. Everybody there was just plugged into this energy source, and it's very gratifying from a sort of professional level for me, where a lot of my peers, many of whom were in the business before I was, were deferring to me as the top guy, like take a guy like Ken Anderson or Trevor Murdoch, guys like that they've been to the big show, and yet they're coming to me and being like, what do you think, champ? Like what, and that's, when you have the respect of your peers, that's an indication that you're on the right track. And I have that, and they have my respect. And that's the way the NWA is. It's seasoned professionals who respect one another and want everybody to succeed and overall want the company to succeed first and foremost.
And just a quick follow-up on that. When it comes to the Into the Fire pay-per-view, obviously the build-up from the show was the NWA Power studio show I mentioned earlier. Talk about how producing the studio show and actually having a week-to-week product changed maybe your perception of what the NWA could be under Billy Corgan and Dave Lagana versus every so often we're doing pop-up shows, we're partnering with other companies. How did the creation of the studio show change the perception of what the brand could potentially have for you?
Well, it's a double-edged sword, I think, because obviously we always had a view to sort of graduating to that point, but we also knew that, hey, once we start doing this, like there's no looking back. People are going to expect this level of output. So now the onus is on us to be a viable business model. I said this, I had a call yesterday, a media call, and I appreciate every media outlet that is looking to help us get the word out and spread the word about this pay-per-view. The pay-per-view is performing very, very well. We've already exceeded the total buys for NWA 70, which was headlined by me and Cody, and we still have days to go. And one of the things that I talked about on that call yesterday was so many fans get wrapped up in this idea that people running wrestling companies are spending 80% of their time talking about booking and creative, you know, like, hey, who should wrestle who at the next pay-per-view? And it's like, that part's easy. Like, I truly believe that most of the frustrations people have when it comes to what they see on other wrestling shows is because it's overthought. You know, like, we just listen to the audience. You know, I'm fortunate that my reinvention, as a wrestler coincided with the reinvention of the NWA and the reintroduction of the NWA as a viable brand in the professional wrestling sphere. But when it comes down to it, like, we sit back and we pay attention to the audience, and we read the feedback, good and bad, on everything, and we go, hey, people are digging Thunder Rosa, you know, people seem to love Trevor Murdoch. We didn't sit there and go, hey, this is our plan for Trevor Murdoch. He's going to do this and he's going to do that, and then he's going to be, you know, considered, on this, renaissance of his career. He did that. We just said, I got a feeling that Trevor Murdoch would be a good fit for us. And the second he walked out, you felt the people just go like, yes. You know, not like, oh my God, it's Trevor Murdoch, but like this approval of like, yes, this guy's the right guy. Like, I get that. And suddenly it's like, he takes that moment, and again, seasoned professional, knows how to maximize his minutes, and in a losing effort, shows everybody who the hell he is and reminds everyone why he's there. And that's a long-winded way of answering your question, but what we are focusing on a lot when it comes to the discussions behind the scenes are those of us who are, you know, really all in, for lack of a better term, on the NWA and trying to make it successful, is we're trying to make this thing profitable. Like, that's the thing that's the crunch for most wrestling companies is, yeah, it's great, but can you make it profitable? And I can say we are so much closer to being profitable than any of us had predicted, you know, at this stage in our life, because we're only 2 years in, you know, and Billy had a 20-year plan for this. And then we you know, with the reception that we got and the way that some of our stuff was received, and then having some fortunate happenstance like All In, and then the subsequent relationship with Ring of Honor, and then the big money matches with Marty and the rematch with Cody, and then, you know, and then moving on, and then finally graduating to our own standalone show. We've had, you know, we've been able to develop a model that is much closer to being profitable than people realize. You know, and we've heard a lot of industry experts or analysts, for lack of a better term, suggest that, oh, well, you know, it's not sustainable like this. And, you know, that's not necessarily true, because in many ways, like we've said from the beginning, our mantra has been a lot of the time traditional values with a modern delivery system. Well, people who understand the history of the business know that prior to big money TV rights deals, TV was a means to promoting live events and then later on to promoting pay-per-view buys. So YouTube is our TV for now. We want to maximize the amount of eyeballs, build our fan base, cultivate it, and then convert those to pay-per-view buys and to live events and to merchandise. And like all of those areas that I just talked about are showing steady growth. So for us, like, that's the most important thing. You know, booking and talent and that's easy, you know, because we've assembled a good team. Like, one thing that I will pat myself on the back for is I have a good eye for talent. You know, you can track back through my social media over the last 5, 6, 7 years and shows that I've promoted in the UK, tours that I've promoted, and you look at the lineup of the guys who I picked out, you know, prior to, you know, before they were being talked about in a wider capacity, and look how many of them have gone on to be signed by WWE or AEW or Impact or Ring of Honor and New Japan. Like, we're not concerned about that part. We know who works. We know who can help us make money. So when it comes down to is slowly building our team and assembling it and keeping this energy going, which has been just so infectious for not only the fans, but for anyone who comes to work with us, and just building on that.
All right, sir. Thank you for the time.
That was awesome response. You're making my job incredible. From Wrestling Estates. Go ahead, John.
Hi, Nick. Thanks for taking the time. You mentioned Billy having that 20-year plan. When you first talked to him about joining the NWA, was what we're seeing right now on YouTube, that weekly series, was that the idea, some type of like a retro-style show?
It wasn't my vision. It was certainly, I certainly wouldn't take credit for it on my end. I do know that David and Billy had always wanted to do a version of this. I know Billy has spoken about many times, growing up watching Georgia Championship Wrestling and just really liking the simplicity of it, because wrestling in its purest form is big personalities and conflict resolution. And sometimes when you dress it up with so much, elaborate entrances and technology and, production value, sometimes some of that can be lost and be kind of glossed over, and again, that's not a knock on WWE. If we were making the kind of money they were making and we had that kind of budget, who knows what we'd be doing. But we're not, but we turn negatives into positives, and we go, what's really raw? What's really raw is a guy walking out. I've always loved stickman interviews. Like, if you go back and look at my run in TNA as a world champion, when I started to have a bit of say and a bit of influence over what I did, one of the things that I often tried to do was to do stickman interviews with Jeremy Borash, because I've always worked better bouncing off someone, because to me, real promos are a conversation with the audience. And so when it comes to what's the really raw, bare bones element of the business, it's guys who can speak in a way that most people cannot. The ability to walk out and look down the lens and rip off like a 2-minute line, 2-minute promo that makes everybody go, wow, what the hell did he say? And then, and then sell tickets off the back of it, and then have conflict, and then, move on from there. And we've assembled a team that can do that so well. And like, we're proving to everyone, a lot of people are going, wow, this is so different, but it's really just what's old is new again.
Sounds good. Thank you for the time.
We had a call from Sean from Fightful. Sean, you're up.
Hey, Nick. Thanks for taking the time. We've seen you defend the NWA World Heavyweight title in other promotions, on television, and the sort in the past, but since NWA Power, we haven't seen that on television. I know it's happened at some other events. Is that something that the NWA and yourself are still open to, despite the fact that NWA Power is its own thing now?
Absolutely. It's really more about creating the build and making sure that when the title's defended, that if it's going to be, especially if it's going to be somewhere that's broadcast, it needs to be presented in a fashion that matches the value that we've placed back in the championship, and that the history of the championship has given us in the first place. You can't buy the legacy, that the NWA championship has. You can create new titles all you want, and you can have fancy belts, and you can have any sort of number of gimmicks attached to a championship, but our main asset is the 10 pounds of gold, and it's the men who've held it before me. So we just have to make sure it's presented in a manner befitting of that legacy. So as and when you see that, it means that either we've presented it in a way that, like, for example, like the pay-per-view coming up this weekend, we've built to it in a way that fits the championship, or if we're doing it with another company or another promotion, that they have worked with us and worked to create that same aura.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. That's another call. This is Josh Richards Jr. from Wrestling News Source. You're up.
Hey, Mr. Elvis. Thanks for taking the time, man. I really appreciate it. Can you hear me?
No worries. Go ahead. Yep.
Great. Hey, man, I'm gonna kind of switch gears here, and we're kind of known for asking the tough questions, man. So
you're gonna ask me about Cornette?
Absolutely. I mean, we got to know, man. We got to know, like, how much of the Cornette drama has hurt or helped you as a face of NWA, and along with that, I mean, has that really set you guys back in NWA a step with some of your fan base?
Well, I'll break that down into a couple of sections then. As far as me personally, anything I chose to say on it was my own decision. So, that is what it is. Like I said, I was very careful about the words I chose, and I stand by them. And again, you can go back and look at, I've written articles, I published one on Flag Sports, and I have given interviews where I have strongly defended Jim, when people were accusing him of making homophobic comments, because they weren't homophobic. He was criticizing someone's act. And I said, you can differ, you can have a difference of opinion with Jim, but you can't hurl accusations at him for stuff that isn't there. That's not fair. But when you make a faux pas like that, it's not up to me to decide what's acceptable and what isn't. It's not up to me to decide who's offended and who's not, and it's certainly not up to me to decide who's allowed to be offended by something and who isn't. Ultimately, my words, my opinion on the subject was purely in the thinking of the boys and thinking of the talent. Because if you have a show like that one where Trevor Murdoch steps into the light and reminds everybody that he's a player, and Melina debuts, and all everybody's talking about is a controversial line from a controversial commentator who has a controversial podcast, that's a problem to me. And that's all there is to it. And like I said, Jim was a hugely valuable resource to us. And I would consult with Jim for advice because he's an encyclopedia of the business. It's just unfortunate that he made a faux pas and refused to own it. And it kind of, for me, it's like I said, it's not the reason that I want the NWA to be trending. And nobody has worked harder than me or David Lagana to make this company what it is. And we don't want things to be distracting from that just because some guy wants to be controversial. So really what it comes down to is, hey man, if that's what you want to do, like, have at it. Go do your podcast, and we'll move in another direction. Because, like, we just don't need that distraction. And
is that the part when you're talking about, you stated a few minutes ago that NWA is full of seething professionals. I mean, is that what it comes down to? The basis of this is being professional 24/7 when you're part of the NWA.
Yeah, and it's about the company ticking and trending for the right reasons. Because we've had 2 solid years, with the exception of like that bad week and a half. We had 2 years of just constantly over delivering. Where, look, I was there. Yeah, I saw the comments from many publications, some of whom may even be on this call. I don't know, who speculated like, oh, is this Billy Corgan's bought the NWA? What the hell? What's he doing? And there was all the snickering and all the back talk and all the kind of sideways comments, and then they went, and they're going with Nick Aldis, and then fast forward a year later, I'm stood in the ring in the true main event of the most talked about show of 2018. And when we built on that momentum, I defended the title on 4 different continents. I mean, I wrestled in a building that was like below freezing one day. I've wrestled all over the world, taken bumps all over the world to make people give a shit about this championship again. So I'm not going to let it get distracted just by a dumb line that was unnecessary. And that's like I said, it was unnecessary. And it was, and here's the true, if you can take one thing away from this, let it be this. I guarantee you, all of you listening, I guarantee you that after this weekend and after Tuesday and our new season of NWA Power starts, nobody will be talking about this shit again.
Thanks, Nick. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us. You're up.
Raj, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. The voice was breaking up there. Nick, thanks for taking the call. I just wanted to get your thoughts on what you thought of the first season of Power and what changes, if any, you'd like to see in the next season.
I thought the first season really set the tone for who we are as a brand. And, I will stand by, especially episode 1 of that show, as, to me, one of the best examples of how to come out of the gate and show everybody, what your brand is all about and how you're different from every other brand in a very crowded marketplace. Some of, as far as, like, we all have our different tastes, certain stuff on the show, like, that, might appeal to others more than it appeals to me, but that's cool with me as long as we're ticking over in the right direction. Like, we knew that, like most shows, we were going to have a strong opening, and then some of that gets siphoned off, and then what's left is our kind of core audience, and then we build on that. As far as how it went, again, we're talking about a small team, and everybody there worked their tails off to get all of that, all of those episodes done, and to make sure that we brought the same level of intensity and energy on the last episode as we did on the first. Certain things happened during those tapings that made us pivot, like the question mark, you know what I mean? Like, regardless of how any one person might feel about it, the guy, he got over, so it was like, so things were adjusted. Ricky Starks showed up, and he's a guy that I've, very strongly endorsed. He shows up, and I think that it would be fair to say that Billy, I'm not saying he didn't see it with Ricky, but he was just kind of trusting my judgment. And then by the time he saw Ricky's first segment on that show, he went, okay, you sold me, right? And I think the audience did too. So it's like, and so there were some pivots, and I think that's a testament to our professionalism, because it's a tape show, and it's not as easy to sort of go, to work based on feedback, which is absolutely what we want to do, because we believe in booking more than writing. And, that's hard to do with a tape show, but I think we did it pretty well. And I think that, if anything, I can say my only major sort of note or request as far as sort of going forward was to keep it even simpler. Like, what people really like about our show, in my opinion, is guys going out and cutting money promos. And because it's been so long since people have seen that, and have matches that establish who you are, and then build to something that's important so we can sell some pay-per-views. And again, we're not talking pay-per-view records here yet, guys, but for us, Like, we've smashed our last pay-per-view and we've still got days to go. And typically those are the days where, the last few days are when most of the buys come in. So, like, we're proving our concept, and what's most important is that our audience that we have, we're converting them to pay-per-view buys, and that's really what we're all about. So what you'll see, I think, in the next season is a stronger emphasis on guys getting a chance to just go to the podium and cut a promo and make people care about them, and the rest will fall into place based on who the natural matchups are, because that's my philosophy in booking anyway. I'm not the booker, but I have a say, and that's my philosophy on booking is the matchups present themselves, and the personalities as they emerge, you see who matches up well with each other, and then you go from there.
And as a follow-up to that, you talked about the importance of promos and just how, in my opinion, NWA has had the best promos on television.
I agree.
Most of the strong promos right now are coming from a lot of the veterans. Yourself, James Storm, Tim Storm. Who are some of the young up-and-coming talent that you see that have that gift of gab that you could see really knocking them dead? You had mentioned Ricky Starks. Are there any others?
Yeah, I mean, Starks would obviously be one of the first ones I would mention in that regard. I think people are going to be surprised when Thunder Rosa gets a chance to speak. Certainly in that environment. Obviously, her presentation is so vastly different, and she's kind of arrived with on the scene with such ferocity based on her in-ring performances and her intensity in the ring. But I wouldn't sleep on her as far as her ability to deliver on the stick too. I think Allison Kay is money on the mic, in my opinion. She in many ways has been, as good a representation of the NWA as I have, on the women's side, in the way she carries herself and the way that you can really see in the way when she conducts herself that she really believes that she's the champion, and that's really the most important thing. And then there's going to be some new faces. We're going to see some new people coming up, and again, like I said, by the time this weekend's finished, I think that the conversation about the NWA is going to be all about what you've just seen, or if you didn't get the pay-per-view, what you just missed. And that's going to be, who knows who you're going to see in front of that podium, speaking on that microphone. And that's, that's an exciting prospect. And let's not forget that, people like to talk about the departure of Cornette, but the blessing in disguise we got from that is the addition of Stu Bennett, who I think is going to absolutely crush it on the broadcast team.
Absolutely. Well, thank you.
We have another call from Foul Original Wrestling. You've got the floor. Take it away.
Oh, thank you very much. Hi, first time. Hey, Nick, thank you very much for taking the time today to talk to us.
No problem. Thank you.
So, as you may have heard, I'm British, and I've got a question that might kind of take you back a little bit. And some of us in the UK know you from the UK revival of Gladiators back in 2008, and this seemed to inspire your first character in TNA. You may have heard, but the infamous British gladiator Wolf was asking for a revival back in August 2019, and Davina McCall has said she's happy to host it. Who do you think could form an international gladiators, 3 men and 3 women from the world of wrestling, and who would you have on your teams for that gladiator reboot?
Well, obviously me. I mean, I was clearly the standout star of that show in 2008, and it was the launch pad for my entire career, and I'm happy to say that. Who I think would have, Bobby Lashley would have made a great gladiator. Like when you think about the 90s and you think about like the Shadow and all those great characters like Lashley he's like a cartoon character. So I would go, and plus he's a legit athlete, amateur wrestler, and just one of the most unbelievably athletic people I've ever seen. And then who would be my third? Maybe Brian Cage. Yeah, he might be good. Like, again, just to me, like you got to look like a cartoon character. You got to have that real sort of over the top sort of look and presentation for gladiators. I think Brian Cage. As far as the women, gosh, putting me on the spot here. Let me think. I think Marty Bell might be good. She's a different look, very exotic, and she's another one who can really deliver on the microphone when given the opportunity. I think maybe Toni Storm. She's a good athlete and has a great look and like lots of charisma and has that sort of. She kind of, I think sometimes in the face, she kind of reminds me a little bit of Jet, but like a blonde version of Jet. I mean, I know we're going off on a tangent here. Most of the Americans are going like, who the hell are they talking about?
Awesome reference. Awesome reference.
Yeah.
Jet today at work.
Yeah. And then, gosh, a third one. Let me think. Maybe let's go. I know. It would be Ashley Flair. Charlotte Flair. Sorry, Charlotte Flair. Sorry, guys. Yeah, because again, you talk about, you need someone who's like a legitimate athlete and has that physical presence and that size and that charisma, and that's Charlotte Flair. I mean, all day long.
Oh,
that's a very original
I'll take
question. Thank you much. We have another call. Stephanie, I think we've been texting. She had an issue calling back in. So I think Stephanie Franchon from Voltaire Mag. Are you there?
If Stephanie can press *1 on her telephone. Okay, and Stephanie, you are live.
Hi, Nick. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for joining us, Stephanie. You finally got here.
Yeah, I'm finally here. I don't know what happened on the first try. It just cut, and I was okay. Maybe I'm not welcome. No, that's not true.
You're always welcome.
So, culture is a British media, but I'm calling you from France.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Bonsoir. Actually, bonsoir. It's evening there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nearly 8 in France. You mentioned Stu Bennett coming to NWA. We all know how good he was doing commentary for World of Sports Wrestling. Do you have another British talent in mind that you would see coming to NWA?
I think there are a lot of British talent that would be a great addition to the NWA. I think that as far as the heavyweights and the sort of rugged style and the intensity that's required for the NWA and the way that we like to present the world title, and I think that Rampage Brown would be a great addition. I think Shah Samuels would be a great addition. I think Yeston Reese would be a great addition. I mean, there are so many great British talents now, that, I mean, you could make a viable worldwide promotion with an entirely British roster, and that's a proud thing for me, because guys like myself and Stu and Drew McIntyre and guys like that, we still can. I mean, I'm 33, so it's not like I'm this sort of old salty veteran or anything, but we came up, and it was still, the mentality was still kind of like, oh, well, there's only room for one British guy on the roster. I would get told that a lot, like at WWE, they would say, well, we've already got Stu Bennett, we've already got Wade Barrett, and we've already got this guy, and You know, and it was, you know, and it was kind of insulting. You know, like there would be a sort of a, I think that TNA don't necessarily get enough credit for kind of moving beyond that and just kind of going, hey, there's a really big British market and there's a lot of British talent. Like, let's look beyond just Nick and Doug, and you know, and then let's bring in this guy and let's bring in that guy, and then they had, you know, British boot camp, and you know, we start doing, you know, really, you know, they really worked hard to appreciate the UK fan base, and I think off the back of that, look at the, you know, the explosion in the UK scene. And obviously for me, you know, I broke the glass ceiling for British wrestlers all over the world, whether they like to admit it or not, because I witnessed firsthand conversations with top level executives who said, you know, a British guy would, you know, won't be world champion, you know, and I said, all right, we'll see about that. And, you know, now it's like, you know, there's a whole new generation of British wrestlers coming through who aren't even thinking about that, who aren't even thinking, I wonder if I'll even get a chance to be the world champion because I'm British. Like that's gone now, you know, and I'm not saying it's all because of me. It's, you know, but I play a significant role in it. And, you know, and you take guys like Marty Scurll, who's become one of the hottest stars in the industry and, you know, soon to be one of the hottest free agents, and Stu Bennett, who's, you know, he's got a sort of legendary status now in the business, and he's coming in as a broadcaster, and he could punch his own ticket anywhere. So it's like, it is proud. And like I said, we are spoiled for choice with British talent, and those three names I just mentioned would probably be the first ones on my list, but there are many more.
We all know that NWA is really something purely American. Do you think the product can go worldwide and reach different audience all over the world?
I do. And
like
here's
live pay-per-views.
Yeah, I do think so. And I think that, you know, we have seen a lot of, for example, we have seen a very strong feedback from France, and we've seen a very strong feedback from Germany. We've seen some strong feedback from Israel. I mean, I got word the other day that so far of all the pay-per-view buys we've had, there are pay-per-view buys for Into the Fire from 41 different countries. So that in itself should be enough to show that the new NWA, while yes, it is an iconic American brand, and it is an iconic Southern American brand in many ways, it's, you know, in its new incarnation, we are very much about being a worldwide brand. And I think one of the reasons why it resonates so well with our international fans is because we've stripped it down to the bare bones. You know, wrestling is a universal language. One of the reasons why we've enjoyed such visibility around the world overall in the genre is because it breaks barriers of language. I think anyone can understand good guy and bad guy, and hey, that guy's cheating, and hey, this guy's fighting back, and this guy's fighting back from underneath, and you know, everyone can understand that and recognize that. And I think that you know, the feedback we've seen from our French fans and our German fans and our British fans, obviously there's a huge demand. I mean, I get asked every day when there's going to be NWA live events in the UK. So it's coming. You know, we will continue to build, and as the word spreads, every single individual fan I interact with, whether it be in person or on social media, I say, please spread the word. Thank you for supporting the brand, and please spread awareness, because I truly believe that when people sample our stuff, you know, they get it, you know, and our biggest challenge is just getting people to see it. And you know, one by one, brick by brick, we're winning them over, one fan at a time.
Thank you. Thank you for calling back in. I really appreciate it. And thank you. Segue to how we feel here at FIGHT about this brand, we're very, very supportive of NWA and work with David and Nick and all the fighters and Billy as well. We have a great fan base of registered users. We've got 2.2 million registered users now on FIGHT, and we have sold events into more than 180 countries. A lot of people don't realize there's even that many countries in the world. There's actually even more than that, but and we'll get Antarctica yet. It's the fans really are everywhere. And Nick, I would imagine we probably have Into the Fire orders in more than 40 countries now.
That's amazing.
It's just we are constantly in contact with the fans in every corner of the world, and we really want to help expand your brand into we've done wonderful things for AEW, just to name another popular wrestling brand, and largely we did that without having rights in the U.S. and Canada for their pay-per-views or their weekly subscriptions. So we already have an entrenched base, and we're always looking for more. And I really want to thank all the media personnel that have joined us today, because helping us spread the word. Please put it out there. You can order FIGHT on any mobile, internet, or IP-connected device. We're adding more every time. There's a new one invented. We'll be on there too, and it's a great for premium product. Of course, with FIGHT, you also get DVR and live chat if you dare, and it replays, and you can watch it again and again. So I don't know if there's any questions that pertaining specifically to the pay-per-view event this Saturday on FIGHT. If you've got time for maybe one more call or one more question, or Nick, you have a question as well.
I have a question, Kim. Joel again. Nick, I just wanted to quickly ask you, with so many wrestling shows and pay-per-views being 3 hours, 2 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, do you feel that the 50 minutes on this great platform, YouTube, so everyone can watch it, do you feel that is enough time for NWA Power? Would you like to see more, or you think that's just the perfect amount?
For now, I think it's the perfect amount. I believe that we like to leave the audience wanting more, and one of the things that we see frequently in the feedback, from the episodes is people going, "Oh my God, like I can't, it's already finished. I can't believe it," and not in a bad way, like they got ripped off. Just kind of going, "Wow, that hour just flew by." We value the audience's time, and we want to deliver quality, not quantity. And again, one of the reasons that we've stayed on YouTube for now is that because we want to be able to have control over our concept, and the best way to prove concept is to put it out exactly how we want, and then see the feedback and see people react to it, because that way it puts us in a much stronger position if somebody wants to partner with us down the road, as far as broadcasting, because we go, look, this is our product. Okay, this is what we do. And, we know that there's a lot of wrestling on television. And, I know I personally don't really have, I don't have 3 hours. I certainly don't have 7, to dedicate to watching wrestling. And I believe that when I choose to watch wrestling, when I choose to consume the product, I'm typically going to YouTube, or I'm going to an on-demand service like the WWE Network, and I'm picking and choosing what I want to see. And, because I want to be able to trust that what I'm seeing is going to satisfy my needs. And that's what we're trying to achieve with Power, is we're trying to gain the trust of the audience so that they know that if they give us an hour of their time, or if they buy a pay-per-view and they give us 3 hours of their time, that they're getting 3 solid hours of quality content that leaves them wanting more and doesn't leave them thinking, oh, I'm glad that was over.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Well, you certainly deliver the quality, and I think that's what consumers want. Any other last-minute questions? Dave from SiriusXM, you want to chime in for one last question real quick? Or anybody else? How about you, Mike? Mike Weber?
I think we're good here. I really appreciate everybody joining us today, and we're very proud to be associated with NWA. It's been a great organization for many years, and Nick and David and everybody has really brought it to the next level. And we're looking forward to doing this and many more in the future with us. And they're a truly worldwide organization, as we are as well. So thank you, guys. I appreciate it all. Nick, thank you so much for your time today.
No worries. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Well,
all right.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll let you know when we have the next media call. Don't forget to place your order today and tell your readers and listeners to get NWA Into the Fire this Saturday night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. You may now disconnect.